on Happiness Aid or into Happiness Aid Live. We're also going live on the Happiness Co Facebook page. So if you can hear me, make sure you share some love via likes or comments. I would like you to share your day in emoji form. How is your day in emojis? I'm sharing a bit of a tactic from a good mate of mine in Matthew Bruce, who is no stranger to the Happiness Aid platform and Happiness Co. But please do us a favor and share your day in emoji form. Not hard, not easy, I'll be honest. Today we're coming at you live from Perth in Western Australia, and we are going to be sharing workplace happiness tips that you can enact tomorrow at your workplace if you're lucky enough and blessed enough to have a job in your life. Hey Jules, how are you, mate? Good to see you jump on board. We've got heaps of tips to share. As I said, 9 of them to go through, but in the meantime, I'd love you to share your day in emojis, and let's see if you can make it obvious how your day was via the channel that is emojis. It's not easy, like I said, and it's something that we've just started to do here at Happiness Co on these live videos, because we want to hear from you. And if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments or suggestions on how you bring happiness to your workplace, we want to hear from you as well. I would love to hear from you. And I've got a really cool set of things to share with you today. I'm really excited to bring my experience into your life. And my experience is I worked in team building for 5.5 years, working for a brilliant company called Corporate Challenge Australia. And then I came over to Happiness Co at the beginning of 2018, and I've been the general manager for the last 1.5 years of that, and a lead facilitator as well. So it looks like Kat had a brain explosion of a day, or a day that blew her mind. I'm not sure if that's positive or negative, Kat. You've got me stumped there. Share your day in emojis. That's the challenge as we get people jumping on live across all different platforms. The power of restreaming technology is that we're across multiple platforms right now. Shout out to Michelle. Hey Beck, how are you? Leah, how you going? Jules, we said hi earlier. Michelle had a blue love heart, crying, laughing, muscles. One of these emojis. So I assume she loves to laugh and work out. I don't know. Not the Michelle that I saw today at work, but whatever you say, Michelle. Share your day in emojis as we go through it. Rachel, beach, coffee. Yeah, I love that. A bit of writing, maybe some journaling. One of the best ways to stay on top of your emotions is to get journaling and getting out of your head and onto paper. So let's crack on with the 9 tips for workplace happiness, because that's why we're all here this evening, to make sure that you guys get some incredible value off the back of the Happiness Aid Live platform. And if you're watching us on the Happiness Co page, welcome. We've got over 120,000 people on this page, so we're going to get quite a few people watching this in replay as it happens. So for you guys, make sure you comment in replay that you're watching it in replay, and also that if any questions or suggestions come into that, we'll be watching and keeping an eye on all that. So don't think that you'll go amiss if you're watching it in replay. As I said, my name is Robbie Figg, GM here at Happiness Co, and one of the people behind the Happiness Aid Live platform. Not one of the integral people, I'll put it that way. We have an incredible team that is spearheading that campaign, but I'm just really honoured to be able to present on the platform and be the official platform host, which is an incredible job that I don't take for granted. Like I said, I worked in team building for about 5 or 6 years. I've been the lead facilitator at Workplace Happiness and Happiness Co for the last 2 to 3 years in different formats. And in that time, I've collated a group of tips and tricks and maybe a bit of a toolkit for you guys to take into your workplaces, or your sporting clubs, or your schools, and make sure that you're sharing the best version of you, maybe as a leader or a staff member, and bringing that positive culture that we always used to talk about when I worked at Corporate Challenge, positive team culture, and that positive step up every time you walk through the office door. There's some really simple things that we can be doing. So the first one, as you walk through the office door or as you get to your place of employment or wherever it is you're going to share your positive mood, is to greet the people that you see. And I know that it's a really simple thing, but one of the best lines that we've sort of created and shared our happiness code in Workplace Happiness is simplicity over complacency. Really important to get the simple things right. Think about a health and safety manual. It will tell you the most obvious things. You know, step down off a platform facing forward. Or it might be make sure you wear your PPE. If you become complacent, what tends to happen is we think we're doing the sort of menial day-to-day stuff, and if we obviously become complacent in that, it's unsafe. So if we translate that into a simple task like greeting your staff to improve well-being and mood and happiness, how simple is that? And it's such a big thing. Julian Pace, who works for Happiness Co, also says, make sure that you're going into life every day, and when you see someone, it's like they've got a big sign on their head saying, please notice me. Please notice me. That's all people ask for, is your attention, not just your time, meaningful attention. So a little hello goes a long way in that workplace. Your team members want to feel and be happy. So share that if you've got it within you. Give them a little nudge in the morning to feel a bit more positive just by greeting them and asking them genuinely how they are. And there's always a big satisfaction in being spoken to and noticed and wanted in any situation and relationship. Ask them how their weekend was. Check in and see if anyone in that team needs assistance off the back of maybe a long weekend with the family, or a project they've got that's going on. You can get that information by just starting with a small greeting. So it's also the gateway to other things that we're going to talk about today. The other thing that I'd love to share with you as a tip is, off the back of those greetings, is to deliver praise and give recognition often. It's such a simple task, but we get complacent and we forget to share that praise and forget to share that recognition as often as we should. And it's a really easy thing to forget, because when people are doing such a great job, you get used to it. Or if people are doing a really hard task, you can sometimes think things like, well, they're getting paid to do it. But that's not the point. Share the recognition, share the praise, and share how you're feeling about how well they're doing. It goes a long way. We've all been in situations where that matters. Just checking in with the comments here. We've had a few people share their day in emojis. Hey Katrina, hey Lorna, how are you? Rachel, good to see you. Please make sure if you've got any questions off the back of any of these tips that you pop them in, and we'll address them at the end of the video. The next tip is to, if you have the opportunity, make work fulfilling. And what I mean by that is everyone wants to feel like what they're doing matters. So if you have the opportunity to build what matters in the workplace, as in show, whether it's through appreciation and recognition, or whether it's through job design, making sure that people feel like they are contributing and that they matter. It's so important within well-being and happiness that people feel like they belong. And we hear about it all the time through campaigns like Act, Belong, Commit. These things are all around purpose and belonging. So please make sure that if you have the opportunity, make people feel like they are wanted and they matter in your workplace. Make it fulfilling for them. And that is contagious as well. They will do it for other people if they have the power to. And of course, you have the power to do that if you're doing it in the first place. So it's an incredibly contagious thing. And if you're a leader, it's your job to make sure they know what their job looks like. So set some goals, set some objectives together, do it as a group, as a partnership or a collaborative team, and make sure that they know exactly where they need to be in order to justify how they go about things in the workplace. And justify is a loaded word sometimes, but I'm looking at it from a positive sense for themselves, to justify how they feel and how they feel wanted and that they matter. The next one is to, if you have this opportunity, and everyone does because it comes down to decision making, is to make that work and home life balance a priority. Now, work-life balance as a concept is controversial in the way that it's very hard to switch off. So what we need to do is go away from leaning on the organization to make that happen and make the choices ourselves as employees. Very rarely in a job do you have no say on your work hours after hours, if you like. So your work ordinary hours, maybe they're 9 to 5, maybe they're 8 to 6. Whatever they might be, set yourself parameters around the times you know you have control over, full control. And even within work, make sure that you're balancing that with things that fill your bucket and light you up. So maybe it is going for a lunchtime walk, or maybe it is going around and sharing praise and recognition. Whatever it is that fills you up and makes you feel like you're contributing, use that to balance against the work. So it doesn't necessarily have to be going to play sport or exercise. That sort of work-life balance concept is really difficult for some people. So make sure you control and enact actions in the areas you control as much as you can, because at the end of the day, awareness precedes change. So if you know that things are going to be tough upcoming, start setting goals and parameters now so that balance stays in check. And it's been a really tough time. Obviously, if you're watching this later down the track on the platform, we're currently still under some restrictions here in Australia and minimal restrictions here in WA around COVID, but we're finding that the work-life balance is starting to almost meld together because people are working from home. We're not used to being with people for 24 to 48 hours in a row. We almost used work subconsciously as a break sometimes, and people need that. You're not designed to be around the same person for 24 hours or the same people. So even if they're the people that you really love, like your kids or your partners, make sure that the concept of work-life balance is not just a fallacy, and make sure that it becomes a priority for your workplace and your team by setting an example. And they need to have a clear example. Your team members have to have a clear example of the understanding that you value them as a loyal employee. So working to an extent is one thing, but if you drive them to work beyond the norm, you're going to either put their noses out of joint. They're going to feel some resistance and some attrition if it's a HR concept, but you need to make sure that they feel that you see their loyalty within that work, but have a respect for the stuff they do away from work. And that comes back to that greeting and that recognition around what they're doing maybe away from the workplace. And just to finish that, think about what makes you happy, because it's so subjective what brings balance. Some people will use a second hobby job or like a passion project to offset real work, but make sure that's not going to get you in the hole where you're just working the 18 hours or whatever it is that you end up being awake a day because you're putting too much effort into other things that are quite work-esque. So make sure you have that balance, and please enjoy something about your day every day. The next one is encouraging workplace wellness. So if you're in maybe a social committee or a steering committee around wellbeing and mental health, you have some real key power in this. But if you're just an employee, come up with ideas, generate things that will encourage workplace wellness and workplace wellbeing. Last year, Happiness Co won the National Award for Wellness Initiative of the Year, and that was because workplaces were getting us in to be part of that wellness component and form their wellness program. So it could be something like that, working on mental health and happiness and showing that side of things, or it could be as simple as like a step challenge or a physical workout challenge during the week, or maybe it's left field. Maybe you've got an idea about how your workplace went beyond just yoga and the fruit bowl kind of deal, making sure that workplace wellness was not just the usual suspects, but actually went outside of those things. What are some ideas that you have? I'd love to hear your feedback on that. And incentivizing wellness is always a brilliant idea. How you do that, again, is through idea generation, using the plants and the resource investigators. Those are profiles of team members. Use those idea generating people to come up with the idea, and then get your other people like your analyzers and your coordinators to make that a process, and make it a team project. Make it something that fulfills the whole team's strengths, or uses the whole team's strengths and fulfills them from an achievement point of view, which I think that's one of the best team building things you can do, is come up with an idea yourself rather than go to a third party. And, you know, like I said, whether it's through food and cooking or physical exercise, mindfulness tactics, there's so many different things that you can do as a workplace team or a group of employees or a sporting team that can really encourage workplace wellness or team wellness. The next one is a bit of an obvious one, but it's something that people don't really enact enough, which is their hiring policies reflecting happy employees. Now, that's such a subjective and difficult thing to quantify sometimes, as in how happy a person can be, and everyone's going to have their ups and downs. But a happy work environment will attract happy people and keep them as well. So it turns into a retention strategy. And one example I can think of is an IT company that we're working with at the moment, which has completely focused on humanizing technology. So their catch cry or their slogan is keeping technology human. And I love that. And that has become their environment. So keeping people in the frame that want to live to that purpose and work to that purpose might be the way that you keep people happy in the workplace, or it's through those other strategies that I've mentioned before. But it's important to create a happy workplace to get a person that brings laughter to the workplace and maybe will improve productivity and motivation for the whole office, because that happy, optimistic outlook is always contagious. So make sure that the environment brings the people, and then you keep the people by keeping the environment. So it's going to be something that you're going to have to work on, but the best way to start that is to hire people based on it. How you do that and how you maybe screen your applicants and how you bring people into the team is going to vary, and there's so many different ways you can do that. There's some great software, there's some great profiling concepts and pieces that you could do to make that happen, or you could just do it off your gut feel. And I think this day and age, people are really good at sensing authenticity. So maybe you've got a tick box situation of 5 or so things. Maybe it's authenticity. Maybe it's the way people communicate in their interview. Maybe it's what jobs they've had in the past and where they've worked, where you know they would have had a positive environment there and they could bring that to you. It's not the easiest concept, hiring happy personalities, but it certainly is something that will really, really help in the long run to create, develop, maintain, and then obviously condition the workplace for being a happy place. There's a cultural shift that can be made when you bring happy people into the workplace, and I think it's made much easier when you do it individual by individual rather than trying to make it systemic and from the top. You know, allow people to drive that and allow your team to drive that. The next one, the next tip for workplace happiness is to refrain from micromanaging. And I put that in dramatic language because it is something that people tend to do, particularly in sort of small to medium businesses, not too much in the bigger businesses from the top, but it can happen, and it does happen. Trusted, supported, and they're not being sort of helicoptered or hovered over, are always statistically more relaxed and more confident in their job. So if you can allow them to have that contribution to the team with autonomy, you're in a beautiful situation. So try and refrain from micromanaging. And it's safe to say that not one person in the workplace likes to be micromanaged. So sense what that feels like to you and try not to do, you know, that do unto others as you would do that whole saying was completely wrong. Make sure you're only doing things that you would want done to you, and do that with confidence, because if you can do it and allow other people to emulate that, it's going to become contagious through the workplace. I just felt like George Bush then, trying to get a quote right. If you ever want to have a bit of a giggle, and in this day and age we all need one, go and look up failed quotes with George W. Bush. Some humdingers in there. And the other thing is that if you are micromanaging someone in particular, there's obviously some underlying reasons. So maybe try and think about what it is that's underlying the micromanagement. Don't ever feel guilty for it. You're only trying your best to make the organization and the team flow better, but see if you can cut through the first layer and see what is making you or creating the environment for you to have to micromanage. And then maybe you can not necessarily separate wheat from chaff, but you can go through and make sure that the best people are in their best role. And that's always something that helps with productivity and ultimately workplace happiness. The last two, these are really easy things to enact, as in they're simple, but they might take a little bit of time. So launching an individual development plan for happiness. So going to people and using this tool to give employees a set of parameters around how they're going to develop their career and their personal development as well, or their personal growth. And one thing that we always talk about is peak performance versus personal performance. Peak performance is getting the optimum out of your individuals or optimum out of yourself to contribute to the team to achieve together. Personal performance is doing that and feeling fulfilled along the way. So internal, external. Personal development and personal performance is a very internal project. Peak performance and optimal team development, to get a little bit technical, is always going to be a bit more external. So ultimately, happy individuals and people with a bit of a plan and a purpose will show up better for the team. And that's going to create a workplace that will thrive. So make sure that you launch that company-wide. Don't just aim it at individuals because it feels like a performance management thing. Make sure you bring the whole company into it. Allow them to come up with their 4 personal and 4 professional goals for the next 12 months or the next 3 years, whatever the plan is, and tie it in with your business plan for the next whatever term, whatever time frame there is. Some businesses like to go to 5-year plans. Here at Happiness Co, where you can only really work on a quarter by quarter basis with a bit of a projection because things change so rapidly in our world. But make it easy. 4 professional and 4 personal goals or milestones, and do it together so you stay accountable. That is the key to getting things done effectively and with like a high efficacy rate. Make sure you stay accountable. Be accountable to everyone in your team, and not from a KPI point of view, from achieving and fulfilling your life. How cool would it be to do that along the way with your teammates? That's the ultimate team building activity, to be fair. And IDPs, as they're known, or individual development plans, can be found anywhere on the interwebs, but I'll try and put some links up on the platform, happinessaid.org as well, so you can have a look at that and find out exactly what an individual development plan for happiness looks like. And we're developing our own model at the moment for our workplace happiness workshops, which kick off in the next month or so live again, which is really cool. Post-COVID PC, as they say. And the last one, and it really is a buzzword in workplace happiness and say mental health and just generally the workplace, but feedback as a sort of mini mentoring tool. So the best kind of leaders, the best kind of employees will understand the power of feedback. And critical feedback is a key to success in the workplace. And being able to have those difficult conversations for an easy life, so hard conversations, easy life, easy conversations, hard life, it's going to be critical that you can take that feedback on, not take it personally, not let ego get in the way, in order to have a happy workplace, because you're going to have conflict. You're going to have opportunities for improvement. So using it to offer constructive criticism, positive recognition also will clear the air at times as well. And it will help communicate how employees are feeling and if their behavior is aligning with those things that the company are after. So it's a framework for making sure that people individually are taking care of themselves, filling up their own bucket, and aim that feedback at personal and professional, or personal and peak performance. Don't just aim at KPIs. Don't just aim at sales percentages and conversion rates. People will just drop their bundle when they feel like they're not achieving. So make it about them and make them feel like they matter and make them feel like everything they do is contributive to an ultimate goal, and people will show up so differently and so much happier in your workplace. So those are the 9 tips. Greet your team, deliver praise and recognition, make work fulfilling, make work-life balance a priority, encourage workplace wellness, hire happy personalities, don't micromanage if you can, launch an individual development plan for happiness within your workplace, and use feedback as best you can. And my last tip, one thing that I always put into our workplace happiness pillars is, if you're a leader, be authentic, lead by example. If you're a teammate, do the same thing. We have to flatten out the hierarchy for happiness in workplaces, because otherwise it's going to end up with the people at the top under the most pressure to keep people happy. Happiness is an inside job, so make sure that your workplace happiness is exactly the same. Take some responsibility, be accountable, have fun doing it. Make sure you show up the best you can, but have fun doing it. And if you've heard this, if you've played sport before, if you're not enjoying it, what's the point? You know, and that should be the same with work. And work is a tough one, because we're trying to make a living and we're trying to stay motivated to stay making a living. But at times you've just got to sit back and make sure that you're doing everything you can individually. And showing up at work can be tough sometimes, and particularly now. And on that note, there's obviously a lot going on in the world right now. There is a lot going on in Australia in terms of COVID and people getting back to work or not, socialization, and there's obviously a lot going on in the US and overseas. And all I want to say is, it's okay if you're not feeling the best at the moment. If you feel like you're mentally not there, your unhappiness and happiness are being affected by things going on, don't feel like that is any different to other people out there. And I know that sometimes doesn't help, but power in numbers is powerful. There's a lot of people going through the same thing, and the best part about that is there's other people out there you can talk to about that. So reach out to Happiness Co, reach out on Happiness Aid live, and if you need to talk to people like Lifeline, talk to the crisis lines. There's plenty of great people out there willing to listen to you right now. So don't feel guilty for going through a tough time, even though it doesn't affect you directly. We have these existential moments sometimes, and it's okay to do that. That's all I'll say on the whole matter that is, but you're not alone in this world, so reach out if you need to. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been Workplace Happiness with Robbie Figg. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments right now. If you don't, that's also fine. I'd love to hear from you retrospectively if you're watching this in replay. We do have some questions and some comments. Thank you, Tracy, for your kind words. Beck says, share praise and recognition. Absolutely. And the 5 workplace appreciation languages, if you have time, go and Google that as soon as this video finishes, before you have dinner, or before you sort out the kids, or whatever it is you're up to tonight. Please make sure that you look for the workplace appreciation languages, and if you would like Happiness Co to come into your workplace and talk about that sort of stuff, we'd love to do that as well. Joanne says, needed this. Well, Joanne, that's what Happiness Aid Live is all about. Leah says, even if we cannot yet achieve the outcome we are seeking, if we are striving towards it, we are heading in the right direction. Absolutely bang on. And if you're heading in the right direction, or if you've got a direction, you're halfway through the problem. Having those parameters and having that course mapped out is so much easier. And generally in life, there's some great analogies and metaphors, but I always think about the jigsaw puzzle. I could sit down at this table tonight with a jigsaw puzzle, all the pieces laid out, with no box, no picture to reflect on. Highly unlikely, but I could get there, right? I could finish it. But how much easier is it when I have the box and the picture in front of me? It's infinitely more easier. or infinitely easier if you want to speak proper English. There's so many things that we do where we don't have a direction and we don't have a picture of where we want to be. And whether it's manifestation or whether it's visualization or whether it's just having a plan, people always speak about it being easier when you know where you're heading, and having a roadmap is so important. To everyone that's jumped on, thank you so much for joining the live stream. If you're watching in replay, please put your questions up. I will be jumping on and having a look at what's popping up in the feed. And like I said before and kind of alluded to, and this isn't an opportunity to sell what we do, but if anything has resonated with you and you'd like us to bring Happiness Co to your workplace or your organization, please just reach out. We're always keen to discuss, and we are Australia's only contribution-based training provider where everything that you put in to our programs in terms of money and time goes straight back into the movement. So it's an easy no-brainer if you're looking for something in terms of your mental health, wellness, well-being, or happiness in the workplace. So that's it from me. Thanks so much for jumping on whatever platform you jumped on to see us tonight. And I can't wait to bring you some more interviews and Q&As across the platform. Brad Shepherd this Friday night, appearing with Jules. We've got Damien Martin coming up as well. We've got Sharon Anyos, one of the first ever boxing world champions from Australia. Powerful female, great interview that was. Ash Nagar, Brad Hogg, Heidi Anderson was last week, Georgia Love. If you want to see those ones in replay, happinessaid.org. Thank you so much.